This is the story of 10 years old Tramelle Sturgis. This is his father, Terry Sturgis. Tramelle lived in the house with 10 kids, his father and his granny. Tramelle has a 14-year-old brother, and they were pretty close. Tramelle's father had anger and drinking issues. This made him very abusive. He would restrain his boys' hands to prevent them from blocking any blows from a wooden bat. The father would put a lighter in front of a can of bug spray to make a torch and burn the boys. These boys were abused and tortured for many years. November 4th, 2011 will be the last day of Tramelle's life. One bottled water was missing from a case of water. The kids were only allowed to drink tap water from the sink. This made Terry angry and ordered the boys to the basement where the beatings took place. They could hear him creeping down the stairs as he went to retrieve a wooden stick and his liquor. These beatings took place all through the night. The younger kids were not allowed to come down the stairs. Their granny could hear the beatings, screams, and pleas for help. She sat there and ignored this torture. Was she scared of her son? Did she not love those boys? She will also be charged for these hideous crimes. At one point, Tramelle passed out and stopped moving. The father sent the 14-year-old upstairs to grab a bucket of water and pour it into Tramelle's face. He did not wake up. The 14-year-old also testified the father stood on the chest and stomach of Tramelle. He still did not wake up, although he was breathing very shallow. The father decided to go watch TV. After a few hours, Tramelle still didn't move. The father decided to put clothes on Tramelle and then dial 911. He took the little boy's body and laid it on the stairs. Tramelle had a broken leg, a broken arm, fractured ribs, and a concussion. Terry claimed Tramelle fell down the stairs. The police knew it was all lies. The boy had new and old scars and bruises.
It's a hard house to pass because we were in there. And what we saw, what that little boy went through. At least once a day I drive by this house, but I'll never stop. This is the first time.
Big questions when a case like this comes up. Who witnessed that abuse, and did they step up and report it? ABC 15's Dave Biskupin continuing our coverage now with the admissions and regrets coming from people living on this little boy's street.
Yelling, fighting, hitting him with a belt.
Another dangerous crime against a child.
There's over and over and over.
The neighbors knew it. They could hear it.
Swat the kids. Seriously beat the kids.
Severe swelling to his brain.
But after months of warning signs, those who live just feet away from the apartment say no one did enough, and that includes the police and Child Protective Services.
It's been going on a while, and they just don't ever do anything.
The news is shocking but familiar. In fact, County Attorney Bill Montgomery spent the morning talking about another horrific child abuse case.
For anyone to stand there today and say, I thought something was going on, shame on you. Why didn't you say something?
But in this case, neighbor Bill Safran says they did, again and again and again. And he says those calls even came from him and his neighbors several times last week.
And then the police came and he hid the boy, said he wasn't here. They came back at noon and he hid the boy again.
And he says again the day after.
The same officer that came up to talk to him about it, he says, hey, whatever happened to your kid yesterday? He said, oh, they came back and saw him and he was fine.
But when the police came out here 2 weeks ago, they didn't do nothing. They didn't do nothing.
Okay, so Dave, have you gotten any answers then from police or CPS? How did this boy slip through the cracks? Is that what happened there?
Well, Katie, we reached out to Child Protective Services tonight, and they told us that they don't have any answers yet because there are too many loose ends in this case.
Now, one thing I did read was when the CPS came out, they would stand the kids up and ask them questions in front of the father, with the father looking at them, answer those questions. Now, you know they were scared to death. They had to lie.
Indiana's child welfare system is under the microscope.
Leadership changes, funding cuts, and staggering abuse rates have made troubling headlines.
Tricia Slomo went in search of the answers by revisiting an abuse case that shook our community, the 2011 death of Tramelle Sturgis. And Tricia, after the boy died, so many in our area were committed to seeing change.
Oh, all of us remember that time. Maureen, it leaves you wondering, have things gotten any better? There's been a lot of turmoil in the Department of Child Services, so let's recap some of the headlines. The last director resigned last December in a scathing letter. Mary Beth Bonaventura blasted Governor Holcomb's administration for cuts and management changes that she said would, quote, all but ensure children will die. And then a report out in February of this year, the federal figures showed a spike in child abuse deaths in the Hoosier State. Now, around here, the death of Tramelle Sturgis still haunts our community. Warnings were there, tips were received, but still, a child died. So what, if anything, has changed?
This is the last shirt that he had on when he did the self-portrait. It was right before his death.
10-year-old Tramelle Sturgis was a talented artist. His teacher, Sandy Voorhees, says his work stood out.
He even has a sun out, if you notice, for sunshine. And the colors are not dark. They're bright, vivid colors.
His choice of color and content never led on to what was happening at home.
There's no sadness in that picture. You know, I would do it and didn't catch on, you know, what was going on by the picture.
When the young artist was murdered by his father, Terry Sturgis, the difficult news was shared the next morning at school.
It was such a shock. He didn't let on.
Tramelle may have never let on to her, but other teachers say they knew.
And she discovered he also had a bruise on his left arm.
A teacher and other staff members testified at the murder trial, saying they had reported suspected abuse, only to be threatened by the angry father.
Sturgis wanted to confront Tramelle's teacher personally, saying, nobody messes with my family.
Let's start right now. It was rough.
While Tramelle's pictures never revealed his pain, other pictures tell a much different story.
Just spattered with blood from...
Evidence photos from the murder scene of a 10-year-old child.
A weightlifting bar, it's got blood all over it, of course.
Some of the images are too graphic to show.
Began documenting fresh injuries, old injuries, lots of scarring, just head-to-toe trauma.
Tramelle's death remains one of the worst cases police have ever had. Lead investigators Dave Wells and Jim Taylor weren't surprised that Tramelle and the other children hid their pain so well. It was part of the killer's control and a grandmother's neglect of care.
He knew those kids were going to school, so he dressed them appropriately so nothing would come back on him to hide those injuries.
And explain to those kids, you better not say a thing to anybody, or it's going to be worse when you get home.
The problem Grandma has is that she knew exactly what was going on in that house. And it's her responsibility, it's all of our responsibility to report any kind of abuse like that to children.
We will never forget. What scares me is other children, if they're going through this and not speaking up, not saying anything. You know, we don't want something like this to happen again.
Sail on off the radar and venture away from this trouble. It will find you, it's behind you. unfold from my mind. I don't want you near. If you killed me with kindness, I'd no longer feel you here. You've fallen for someone new. A feathered heart forgets everything that's true. Feels like I've ran into 1,000 shades of blue from holding on to somebody like you. You're here in every melody that I sing. I'm returning the table. I refuse to let you in. Unfold from my mind. I don't want you near. If you killed me with kindness, I no longer feel you here. You've fallen for someone new. A feathered heart forgets everything that's true. Feels like I've